somewhere that a true genius is the ability to take complex things and make them simple. Right? And because I'm an essentially lazy person, and I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but as a lazy person, if I can learn how something works here, well, I wonder if that would work here. Can I apply that here? In a business sense, as a defense contractor, we've taken agile software development practices, right, using software developer tools, all that kind of Atlassian suite things on, and we've now taken those tools and we're managing a contract with that same methodology, right? Yeah. Because and is it perfect? There's many ways to get things done, but so with the idea of having a just cause for a business that meets all these things that we just discussed, I wondered, okay, well, how does that fit to me as a man? How does that fit to me as the biblical head of my family? How does that fit to my relationship with my wife and with my children? And do I cast a just cause for how I want the family to be? And do I cast one for how I want my children to be and what I want them to do? Or what does that look like? And that's been evolving. I became a father in mid-90s, right? For the first time. And like I mentioned, I got, had 3 other sons after that, and all extremely talented, all, capable of so much in their own ways and all their own special skills. Yeah. And it's always amazed me how diverse children can be, in a family from each other, and how unique. So I think casting a vision there, creating just cause, again, I wish I had known then what I knew now. I probably would have done it differently. Yeah. But I think since I didn't, I fell back on what I knew. And what did I know? I knew what my parents had taught me. Right. And when I worked that out with my wife at the time, and we were marching forward and doing the best we could with what we knew to do. Yeah. And I think that's all anybody can do. I know more now, so I can apply more things now.
Absolutely.
But by learning and going through that process and giving that test, if I wrote something out how I want the family to be, or what I want from my children, what I want them to learn, and how I would like to see them interact as contributing adults in a society, I would certainly I would have a better plan, I suppose. Right? Yeah. It seems weird to say, well, I'm going to plan, my family's growth, but why? Why would that be weird?
Right. Yeah.
Should it be weird? No, it should. We should definitely have that, because otherwise you're not leading, right? So, and so one of the things that my wife and I are doing now with our youngest son, who's 12, because we look at society today, and we look at culture, and we look at all the different things that the way technology has impacted family. Yeah. We look at COVID, and how suddenly everybody's working from home, going to school from home, and just like the chaos that all that creates. And then just the constant bombardment from social media and other venues now. Because they get outside of the Facebook stuff, right? That's now for grandparents, right? Where are kids getting messages, and how do you do that? How do you then, as a parent, protect your child from some malfeasance out there? But really, how do you equip your child to discern what is right, what is wrong? Yeah. So that's been one of our concerns here with this 12-year-old is, okay, well, how do you do that?
Yeah. So I love where you're going with that, and I am 100% on board with everything you're saying, because, like you said, what I didn't know, I just fell back on what I knew, and so unfortunately, and this is no disrespect to anybody of a previous generation, they knew what they knew at said point in time. And so my version of learning was through experience, what I've seen. And so, for me, I'm just using one thing as an example. Cleaning my house on Saturday morning is still a constant. Why? Because that's what my mother did. And it made sense to me. Like, yeah, do it Saturday morning, get it out the way, and then just go live life Saturday. And that makes sense. So over the years, I've also implemented clean as you go concept Right. So clean as you go makes it for easier work on Saturday morning. And then that way, I can get out and go do what I want to do earlier, if that's what I want to do. But again, that was just a very small example of the entirety of this conversation, because I think you're absolutely right. What does fatherhood look like? And for me, I was getting it hit or miss because I was raised by my mother. So when I became a father, it was almost like trial by fire, like good luck, figured out en route. And and I will be the first to admit I didn't do everything right. I didn't do everything right because, like you said, I didn't have this just cause statement. I never knew that was a thing. I didn't even really get a good understanding of it until like mid-Army career, when understanding what a good vision and mission statement looks like. Oh, okay, I got it. The mission of the Army is to do this thing. Oh, got it. That's why everybody else has the job that they do. And if you do your job right, it makes another person's jobs more fulfilling. But if I fail at my job, well, then these people may struggle because of my inability to accomplish my tasks. Well, I think the same thing falls in line with fatherhood. If I fail as a father, and I want to use that term lightly because I don't want to present that any father fails. I just believe that every father is progressively learning in the direction of being a better father. And here's the best part I learned about that. I didn't really learn how to be a good father until I became a grandfather. That was it. That was it. Yeah, I didn't learn how to be a good father until I became a grandfather. So I can be a better father figure to my grandson than I ever was to my children. Being honest enough to let them know that I didn't know what I knew back. I didn't know what I didn't know back then. And being transparent in that space. So going back to the whole just cause of vision for the family, that is something that all men should be equipped to do. And that means that I sit down with my said spouse at said particular point in time, and we have honest conversation about the direction that we're going, so that we're all on the same accord. Because if I have one vision and she has one vision, that creates division. And that's not really where we want to be at within our core relationship. And last point is that what the children see, like we talked about, they emulate. So what children see, they emulate. So if they see two opposing forces that's supposed to be parents working together as a team, right? Well, when they see two opposing forces, then they're going to move forward in life, and either they're going to believe it's okay to, be an opposition in the house, or they're going to do everything they can to not be that. So yeah, this is good. Vision is definitely good for the family.
Well, I just wrote down, okay, if I have one vision and my wife has another vision, well, that's going to equal division, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
I was like, that's going in. I'm going to use that somewhere, and I'll make sure I reference that here. So yeah, because I had. Both my parents were in the house. My father was Army, so we grew up as an Army family, moving all of the time. But okay, and I think it's not that they were wrong, or they were figuring out too as they were going, because they were young, when I was first born. But part of it is that it probably worked at the time, right? So as those conditions change, right? So that resilience part of your mission statement, right? So those things were required. Now, my quick short example is the whole idea of cleaning your plate. Right now,
good one.
Like you're a kid starting in China, you have to eat everything on your plate that you put there.
Yeah.
And right there, I think there are studies now that saying that mentality, along with fast food and all the rest of it, contributes to American obesity.
Yeah.
And I remember, even when my kids were little, I've got a picture of my number 3 son, with a little. We made a napkin and we put, the CPC on it, right? The Clean Plate Club. And he's standing there, he pinned this napkin on him right when he was little. And he was proud. Yeah, here, take a picture. Well, man, that's the wrong message. If you're not hungry, don't eat. Yeah. And I'm sitting here for you today, and I've lost 26 pounds since the middle of March.
Nice.
By not eating as much as I was eating, or I'm exercising more too, and that's the thing. But also I just cut back on how much my intake was, right? So lessons learned, but here I'm now, 54 years old. So, wow, it took me a long time to really let that marinate and, make a decision. So, all right. So our parents, can't fault them, right? Because what they were doing was right at the time. It's what they
Absolutely.
knew.
And
the idea of getting better. And so, with trying to be deliberate, I think we need to look at this too, because I mentioned, as the head of the household early, in the biblical sense, right? So, and that there are people that get confused about what the Bible says about the relationship between husband and wife, right? Because I don't want to submit to any man, especially since men are especially white men are the problem of America, and all this kind of root of all evil here. But they don't understand what it really means, right? So is the idea just as we all submit to God's will, the wife should submit to the husband, right? Well, because the husband is the appointed head of the household. But what that really means, not that I just get to boss my wife around, no, not at all. What it means is, love your wives as Christ loved the church. And I think that's a very powerful statement, because what did Christ do for the church, meaning the people? Well, he sacrificed his life. He died for the church. So I need to have the mindset that I am now in a position, and again, this, as I'm no longer married to my first wife, right? I have another wife now. That idea of willing, yes, I'm the head of the household, but my job is to love her so much that I would, die for her, and she's going to follow submit. So it's a teaming thing, which is just so great. So you're right. It has to be collaborative. It has to be of one shared just cause. Yeah. And so anyway, with our 12-year-old, right, to get to that thing, I shared with you this idea of this book that she had come across, right? I mean, this is one of the reasons that she and I work out so well. It's written by a guy, Robert Lewis. I'm going to show it up here on the screen real quick. Okay. Raising a Modern Day Knight. Nice. Raising a Modern Day Knight, Robert Lewis. And what he identifies in here is this loss of structure around, becoming a man and really defining what is manhood. And there's lots of definitions out there, but he references back to the knight of medieval times. Yeah. Because there was a specific process that those young men moved through in order to eventually, be dubbed as a knight. And what did that entail? What did that mean? And and as we look at what we do in our military, right? So soldiers go through MEPS, they get recruited, they go through basic training, and then they have to go through all those stages. And eventually, they graduate. Then they get promotions. They have to do other things, and so there's a constant. You have to perform, you have to demonstrate, you have to be, have trouble, right? And then you get to the next level of promotion. So, very, very similarly with that, we've created, we're in the process of figuring out how we want to do this for our 12-year-old. And so it's been fun to kind of go through.
Yeah, man, that's good. So first of all, let me commend you on losing 26 pounds. But here's what he didn't tell you. 15 pounds of that was beard. Like he had the ZZ Top.
Oh, the beard,
But no, congratulations on that, sir. I can see that you're. I can see that you just look lighter. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. You might probably get out there and run about 3-4 miles still. Not this guy though. But I will tell you that I have been doing some similar things. So focus on exercising more, focus on eating healthier. And I'm literally about 4 pounds away from my old Army weight now. So yeah, so we're doing some of the same things. I'm just not doing the 3 to 4 mile run that you're probably doing out there in the beautiful city of or the beautiful state of Alabama. Now, you said a lot of great things, and I love it. And I wrote the name of this book down, Raising a Modern Day Knight by Robert Lewis, because I think every man may need to go buy that and read it for themselves, whether they have a child or not. Read it, get educated, and have something other than just experiential knowledge that you're existing in. Because I think when it comes down to fatherhood, one of the things that we need to be is flexible. So as a father, we need to be flexible. We need to be able to adjust with the times. And you brought up a mention with social media and all of the information that is available online. So the stuff that I'm not talking to my child about, trust me, the internet is. So I need to get ahead of it now. Like those things, and I'll give you a good example here in a second. Those things that I'm not willing to cross over and talk about, well, you must believe that somebody's already having a detailed conversation about it someplace on YouTube, on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and those kids are smart enough to chime in and listen. This was during the whole George Floyd incident. I think I shared this with you during our monthly meetup. This was during the George Floyd incident. And so I intentionally watched the movie, and I can't remember the name of it. It was American something. It was about a young veteran. His son got killed in a routine car stop, and he actually got a group of his friends together, and they went and held at the police station, and they held the cop to justice, a young cop. Not the right thing to do, but again, it was a good movie. So we intentionally watched that movie so I could have very difficult conversation with my son. And one of the things I wanted him to understand is that taking matters in your own hand is not the right thing to do, right? You don't necessarily, you should not act out because of something that you perceive as wrong. I say the most important thing that you need to do is make it home. Once you make it home, then we can deal with the aftermath. But if something was to happen to you, God forbid, that we can't turn back, then I can't get you back. And if I can't get you back, then all is lost at that particular point in time. So the one thing I wanted him to understand is that you need to get home. Get home, let's talk about what happened, and then we will deal with the aftermath moving forward.
That's huge. That's great.
No, thank you for that. And again, it was a difficult conversation for me to have, simply because I know I kind of know what that looks like, from my past experiences. But moving forward, the other part of it is that I didn't want him to look at certain things out there on TV and on the internet and believe that those behaviors were acceptable. Trust me, there are bad employees that work at McDonald's. Promise you. But at the end of the day, nobody's standing in front of them with the cell phones and all kind of other stuff, things of that nature. So what I didn't want him to do was to behave in such a way that put his life in danger. So that was just an example of some of the difficult things that we as parents need to get ahead of. And I think this plan that you guys are coming up with is just a phenomenal example of that. How do we, and we can't take the human out the process, but how can we actually create a process to where within the scope of that process, we as humans can execute what we call critical and creative thinking. And that critical and creative thinking now gets after humanity. That's the key. So if we don't have a process that says these are the things that we do to raise our children in such a way, then we're just figuring it out en route, and we have no plan, no rhyme or reason, and ultimately it is just a show that we do not have a vision. And there's some places it's written that without vision we perish, right? Well, so it just makes sense. And it also goes in line with that my people perish from lack of knowledge. So again, we have to learn to acquire the necessary information within time and space that's relevant for our children today. Because I've said it before, I'm gonna keep saying it. What worked back in 1983 is not gonna work in 2023. So we need to progressively move in the right way, in the right direction of change for the sake of the greater good. And that's really what parenting is in a nutshell.